All right, let's crack the code on one of the most stressful exams out there, the SAT. And forget everything you think you know about studying for it. We're not about memorizing endless facts. We're going to break down the proven Princeton review strategies that help you outsmart the test itself.
So let me start with a question that might just flip this whole thing on its head. What if the goal isn't just about finding the one correct answer? What if it's actually about strategically finding the wrong ones? What if the SAT is really less of a test and more of a game? Just stick with me here, because that's exactly the mindset we're going to unlock.
Here's our game plan. First, we'll dive into why you have to see this test as a game. Then, I'll give you your #1 weapon, the process of elimination. After that, we'll talk about math problems and how to solve them without all the painful algebra. We'll crack the verbal code, and then, the best part, we'll put it all into action with a really tough example. And finally, we'll talk about how these skills go way beyond just test day.
Okay, let's get into this first big idea because it is absolutely crucial. Think about it. High schools all over have totally different classes, right? So how could one single test possibly measure everyone's knowledge fairly? Well, the short answer is it can't. The SAT isn't a test of what you know, it's a test of how well you take the SAT. It's a standardized and, because of that, a totally predictable game.
And that word right there, standardized, is everything. For the folks who make the test, it means it's consistent, but for you, it means it's predictable. The test is built on the same patterns and the same rules over and over again. And once you learn those rules, well, you can beat the game.
This predictability leads us straight to your single most powerful weapon. This is a strategy that works on every single multiple choice section of the test. It's called the process of elimination, or POE. This quote from the Princeton Review is the entire philosophy in a nutshell. For every single question, there's one right answer, and 3 answers that were specifically designed to trick you to look right when they're actually wrong. Your job is to be a detective, to hunt for the flaws in those wrong answers. Trust me, they are so much easier to find. So how do you actually use this? First, you got to know this. There's absolutely no penalty for guessing anymore, so you should never leave a question blank, ever. As you go, physically cross out the answers you know are junk on your scratch paper. It helps clear your head. And if you're completely, totally stuck, don't even waste time on it. Pick what we call a letter of the day, let's say it's C, and use that for every single guess. Statistically, it's way better than just guessing randomly.
All right, let's talk about math. And I'm about to tell you something that's going to sound a little crazy. What if the best way to solve a ton of SAT algebra problems is to not do any algebra? You see, the test makers expect you to get all tangled up in X's and Y's. We're just going to sidestep that trap completely.
And this shows you exactly what I mean. Traditional algebra is abstract, it's messy, and it is full of places to make a tiny mistake. But the plugging in method, that turns these confusing problems into basic arithmetic with real, concrete numbers. It's faster, it's way safer, and it's just so much more efficient. You're basically swapping their hard puzzle for your easy math.
Now, this plugging in strategy has 2 main versions. The first is PITA, or plugging in the answers. That's what you use when the answer choices themselves are just regular numbers. You just try them out until one works. The second, and this one's a game changer, is PIYN, plugging in your own numbers. This is your go-to move when you see variables all over the question and the answers.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about the reading and writing sections. Now, you might think it's all about just understanding the passage, but just like the math section, there's a code to crack here too. There are patterns and shortcuts you can use.
Let me break down the top tactics for you. First, the answer to every reading question is literally, physically, right there in the text. Your job is just to find the proof. For those really annoying paired questions, use the evidence choices in the second question to help you figure out the first one. It's like a built-in cheat sheet. And for the writing section, the most important word to remember is concision.
So what is concision? It's really simple. Being brief and direct. The SAT writing section absolutely hates fortiness. So if you're looking at a few options that all seem grammatically correct, odds are the shortest, clearest one is the right answer. When you're in doubt, just cut the fluff.
Okay, so theory is great and all, but let's see how this stuff actually works when the pressure's on. We're going to take a problem that looks like it was designed to give you a headache, and we're going to watch it turn into simple arithmetic using one of these key strategies.
Okay, here we go. Notice the variable in the question, that little t, and you can bet the answer choices are going to be full of variables too. This is a perfect setup for our PIYON strategy, plugging in your own numbers. I mean, trying to solve this with algebra would be a total nightmare, so let's do it the smart way.
So step 1, we just forget about algebra and pick a nice, easy number for the original price. $100 is always great for percent problems. Step 2, we just do the simple math. A 10% discount on $100 leaves you with $90. Then a 6% tax on that $90 is $5.40, so the total is $95.40. Step 3, that number, $95.40, that's our target. That's what n equals in our little experiment.
So remember that number, $95.40. That is our target value. Now all we have to do is find the answer choice that gives us this exact number.
And now comes the fun part. We just test the answer choices. We take our value for t, $95.40, and plug it into each of these messy-looking formulas. We're looking for the one that gives us back the $100 original price we started with. So let's try A. 95.40 divided by, whatever that is, 0.954, and what do you know? It equals exactly 100. That's our match. We don't even need to check the rest, but you can see they give us all these random wrong numbers.
And just like that, a problem that looked super complex was solved with a little bit of multiplication and division. That is the power of using strategy over just brute force calculation. I know, it almost feels like you're cheating, but you're not. You're just thinking like the people who made the test.
So, what's the big picture here? Yeah, of course, these strategies are going to help you boost your SAT score, but honestly, it's about something bigger. It's about a fundamental shift in how you look at complicated problems.
The real goal here is to change your mindset. You stop being a student who's just trying to answer questions, and you become a strategist who's analyzing a system. You learn to spot the patterns, you find the loopholes, and you learn to work smarter, not just harder.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. The SAT is just one puzzle with one set of rules. But how many other hard problems in your life, in school, at work, whatever, only seem impossible because you're trying to attack them head-on? What happens when you stop trying to force the solution and start looking for a smarter strategy? Think about it. Thanks for tuning in.